Hey, this is Mr. Luke again, and I just wanted to share with you all about how we are teaching subtracting with regrouping and what that looks like and how you can kind of help and explain it to your child. So first off, very similar to addition, we start out with a mat. So a little bit on that. We start with a mat and a problem, and this is really trying to build the conceptual understanding. The mat helps kids understand multiples. It'll help them kind of start to develop an understanding of how numbers combine and even kind of dabble in multiplication when you start looking at it, as you'll see with a couple of these problems that I demonstrate. But I'll give them a problem. So here's a problem, 42, take away 25, and then I'll say model it. And the difference with subtraction is that you model the bigger number only, and then this is where you start to think about it. And it really translates nicely into the traditional format when you're doing these. So I have 4 tens, and just like the way we're calling these 4 tens is 40. And so this is what I'm talking about. 4 times 10 is also 40. And so getting them to start to build those connections for third grade is really important, as multiplication is a big part of their development process and the standards in third grade. And so as you see this, you have 4 tens and we have 2 ones. And so I take my base 10 blocks. And again, going back to previous videos, you can use, if you don't have base 10 blocks, you can use popsicle sticks or toothpicks and bundle them up and have that same concept go. So I have 42 and I got to take 25. And we say, when you set this up, I'm going to pull this away for just a second. When you set this up in a problem, it is going to look like this. And so you have 42, and we give them paper like this so they can see it. 42, take away 25. And then what I ask the students is, if the floor is more than the ceiling, you have to borrow from next door. If the floor is more than the ceiling, you got to borrow from next door. So in this case, the 5 is bigger than the 2, so you got to borrow from next door. I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to bring you back to this, and then I'll show you how we demonstrate this and how I'm walking through some of the students that are struggling with it in showing their work and what's actually happening conceptually. So right now, we got to take 5 from 2, and we don't have 5 to take away from, so we regroup. We borrow this 10. We don't get rid of it. This is really important to make sure they understand, is we're not getting rid of our 10. We're just making it look different. And so this 10 is still here, just in a different form. It's in the form of ones. And so we build our ones, and we have 10 of them. And so I like to ask, okay, we have how many total? And I make them count it up. And so they should be able to recognize that this is still 42. I still have 42, even though it looks different than before. Okay, and what this also shows is, if we go back to our other piece, what this also is showing is that the tens, let me show you that real quick. The tens, I'm going to ask them, how many tens do we have now? And they're going to say, well, we have 1, 2, 3 tens. Some might say there are 4 because they're counting these tens, but there are 3 10 blocks, base 10 blocks that we have. And so what happens is then we're borrowing from the 4, and the 4 is now becoming a 3 because we have 3 tens. So we're showing that in the base 10 blocks, right? And so now we can also ask, how many ones do we have? And they're naturally seeing, oh, wait a second, it's no longer 2, but we have 12 ones. And so we're borrowing from next door. And so we're seeing that in the process of making that problem, right? And so now you can say, all right, so now we're going to take the ones away first, and then we're going to take the tens away, okay? So we take the ones away first, we're going to subtract 5. It doesn't matter where they subtract the 5 from. They could take 2 here, and they could take 3 here, and they will see that there are 7 ones left, right? 5 and 2 more, so 7 ones. And then they're going to look at the tens, and they're going to say 4 take away 2 is 1. And so they know the answer is 17. And so when they demonstrate that, and they've now did the floor, 12 take away 5 is 7. 3 take away 2 is 17. And now they've checked it 2 ways, and they've understood why the traditional method actually works the way that it does. And so that's how we're slowly building their confidence and kind of showing them. And it's really important for them to be able to explain that to you when they start doing this. And eventually, a lot of them will get better at this. But when they start explaining this to you, if you take another number, I'll do 84, take away 39. I have them read it for me. So we have 84, take away 39. And in this case, I want to have them read it to me. What does this say? Well, it says 84 take away 39, or 84 minus 39. That's really important too. And then they look, is the floor more than the ceiling? And if it is, they got to borrow from next door. And so in this case, 9 is bigger than 4, so we get to take away from 8. And as they start to explain it, well, it's 8 tens, and I'm borrowing a set of tens, so that means it's going to drop it down to 7. And now that it's 7 tens, those tens are going to be redistributed to the ones. So it's 10. What's really going on is the 10 plus 4, which equals 14. So now my new number is 14 take away 9 is 5. And sometimes to help them, I might have them count up. So 9 to get to 14. How many do I have to go up? Because some of them are still struggling with that connection of 14 take away 9 is 5. I know that. But how do we get there? So you can just say 9 and then count 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then they know it's 5. And then they can check that there. And then 7 take away 3 is 4. And so we know it's 45. That 84 take away 39 equals 45. And you can have them practice that as well.